Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the regular evening council meeting of Tuesday, October the 12th. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public may access the meeting or participate in the following ways. Individuals who wish to attend council chambers in person may do so by registering in advance of the meeting by contacting the corporate officer at corporateofficer@summerland.ca to ensure there is enough space in council chambers. You can watch the meeting live or recorded on the District of Summerland YouTube channel, youtube.com, District of Summerland. If you have not registered in advance but wish to speak during the public comment opportunities, there will be time to do so if there is time in the public comment opportunities, which has a maximum of 15 minutes. After I have provided everyone who has pre-registered with an opportunity to comment, the floor will be open to those in council chambers and those on the conference line. The conference line can be accessed by dialing 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. Corporate Officer, you have a late item to introduce?
Yes, so the late item that we are introducing would be that the Summerland Chamber of Commerce request for $10,000. We never had a council motion to approve the $10,000 for the Chamber of Commerce, so we would like to just add it on, probably section 9.3.
Sorry?
Probably section 9.3.
9.3, thank you. Okay, so adopt the amended agenda, please. Councillor Holmes, Councillor Barkwell, all in favor? And adoption of the council meeting minutes of September the 27th, both the public hearing and the regular evening council meeting. Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Great, thank you. And then on to my mayor's report. Just have to find it here. Okay, I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving weekend, and whether or not you were able to share a special meal with family and friends, or friends, we have much to be thankful for, not the least of which is that we live in Summerland. I don't have too much to report tonight. On October the 6th, I attended the executive meeting of the Southern Interior Local Government Association. Council and staff, if you have not yet registered for the Fall Speakers Series, this is a reminder to do so if you're interested. The 3 seminars in the fall series are Asset Management on October 20th, Best Practices for Building Relationships Between Local and First Nations Governments on November the 24th, and a roundtable with Minister Katrina Conroy, who's the Minister of Forest Lands and Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development. And that's on December the 28th, and after she provides an update on her ministry's activities, she is going to open the floor for questions. The seminars begin at noon and run for 45 minutes, and they're all free. It is recommended that you register for the entire series and then attend the ones that you're able to. On October 7th, I attended the biweekly Mayor's Vaccine Roundtable with Interior Health. In our health authority, case numbers are stabilizing in response to the vaccine passport and ongoing recommendations for reduced numbers of people at gatherings. However, the message remains the same: please get vaccinated. Although COVID-19 may be with us for years to come, the sooner people get vaccinated, the sooner we can all begin to resume life without public health orders. Following the IH update on that Thursday, I attended the South Okanagan Respect Network meeting. South Okanagan Immigration and Community Services, SOICS, provided an update to members. Both CAO and STAT and I attend these meetings on behalf of the district. As mentioned at our last council meeting, of particular interest to South Okanagan communities is the Unbox program. SOICS has partnered with the Summerland and Osuyas branches of Okanagan Regional Library and the Penticton Public Library on this anti-racism initiative. Visit soix.ca or drop by the Summerland Library to register for Unbox and learn more about First Nations culture and the experience of people of color in our region. And that's it. CAO Stat.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to make Council aware that Fortis BC will be updating their transmission system that provides power to Summerland, which will result in a community-wide power outage on October 15th from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. and October 22nd from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. We are distributing a media release, putting posts on our Facebook page, the website, and making the outage known through a newspaper ad to ensure that people can plan around the outage. When there is a planned outage like this, it's a good idea for all of us to take time to be ready for an unplanned power or water outage. Unplanned power outages can happen anytime. And during a power outage, which can result in interrupted heating and air conditioning, lighting, hot water, even running water, there can also be impacts to means of communication like phone or internet service as well. In order to maintain a resilient community, it's good for residents to visit www.getprepared.gc.ca, which has resources for citizens planning these kinds of interruptions. Staff is now working on the budget preparation for the 2022 year. As a result, this will involve consideration of utility rates, capital planning, and our general financial plan for the operations. We are aiming for a public open house in early December regarding the utility rates for 2022, and also another open house in February for the overall financial plan. The specific format, location, and timing of these events will be communicated in more detail in the future, given the changing COVID landscape right now. But whether it's an in-person event or another virtual opportunity, this year we hope to hear from the community, and so we'll make every effort to communicate about them well in advance. Lastly, I have good news. The new LED light fixtures for the lakeside pathway between Peach Orchard Park and the Yacht Club have just arrived, and our crews are going to be installing them starting this very week. With the days getting shorter, I know these lights will be a welcome addition to our renewed pathway along the lakeshore. Thanks to our residents for their patience as we've dealt with some supply chain issues in getting the materials necessary to complete the project.
Thank you, CAO. Any questions on the CAO's report? All right. So let's carry on to our first of two public comment opportunities. Anyone? Okay. Development reports. Item 9.1, reconsideration of Council Resolution RE 2021-162. And I will first go to our corporate officer to run us through the process.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the reconsideration was brought forward by Council Holmes of Resolution RE 2021-162. So the first part of this process would be for Council to consider reconsideration of the motion with the wording that Council reconsider Council Resolution RE 2021-162, that Council directs staff to draft a zoning amendment to rezone the subject water area for the WZ3 zone to a site-specific WZ3 zone with limiting criteria in consultation with the proponent. At this stage, it's not to debate the WZ3 zone, it's just for the reconsideration of that motion.
Thank you. So might I ask someone to bring forward that resolution to reconsider the motion, please? Councillor Holmes.
Do we need a seconder? Or
Yes, sorry, I thought you were going to read out something, but second by Councillor Patton. Okay, and I'll call the question. There's no,
I was going to say something about this, about the reconsideration and why I'm bringing it forward.
I don't think that there's any opportunity for discussion.
So the debate or discussion that should happen now can only solely be related to just the reconsideration itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So please go ahead.
Thank you. So, so the reason I'm bringing forward this is because I don't feel we fully understood what option 3 meant, which is what the original motion was. Speaking with a couple councillors afterwards, they seem to have a different understanding of what it meant than what I understood it to mean. There were a lot of to be determines in the option, which we didn't determine. We decided to let staff determine. So I thought, well, I better find out from our CAO how staff interpreted that, and we all received the response from our CAO about what staff's understanding was. And if I knew ahead of time, I either wouldn't have voted in favor of that motion, or I would have asked that we refer it back to staff and bring those things that needed to be determined back to us. But so it's on that, for that reason, I'd like to ask us to reconsider it. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on this? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I support the reconsideration. In retrospect and reviewing the discussion, and I sort of misapprehended some of the information, and my understanding wasn't complete. I thought maybe we had a long discussion, and as long as it was, that maybe the discussion wasn't complete, and I think it's well worth reconsideration because yeah, thanks.
Okay, any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? And any opposed? That carries unanimously. All right. So now that we have determined that we will reconsider this, the question, I guess, is do I just ask the, maybe I could ask you to, yes, please go ahead to read the resolution. Thank you.
So now that the motion to reconsideration is passed, the original motion that council directs staff to prepare a draft zoning amendment bylaw to rezone the water area, that council directs staff to draft a zoning amendment to rezone the subject water area from a WZ3 to a site-specific WC3 zone with limiting criteria in consultation with the proponent is now on the floor, and it has already been first and seconded as it was at the September 27th meeting. So now it is for council to debate and go from here.
So we can continue to discuss this as if we hadn't already voted, and then we will have another vote after the discussion. Okay. Anyone like to speak to this? Councillor Holmes.
Yes, thank you. So after giving this lots of thought, I'm not really comfortable with this motion, the way it sits. I'm not comfortable with the level of the district's involvement to facilitate with the proponent. I don't really see this as the district's job at this point. I believe staff have lots of work on our strategic priorities, and this project has never been in our strategic priorities. I'm all in favor of collaboration, but really it's up to the project proponent to speak to the neighbors and work things out. And I think it's presumptuous of us to assume that they aren't already doing this or aren't capable of doing this. And I just don't see that as our role. And I don't. And when I think back on 2019 and our decision to rezone the Oasis property, there was members of both the public and the council at the time were asking if wharfs or docks facilities of any kind were part of the project. And each time we were told it was not. And so it was a concern to people then. So now all of a sudden, why are we facilitating something that was 2 years ago a concern to people? I understand that it was said at the last meeting that we don't want to presume what the public wants, but the problem with the site-specific zoning is that it presupposes there will be a marina there of some sort, and we don't know if the public actually wants a marina. So we have to establish that first before we do any work on facilitating a plan to build one there. I know water zoning is kind of a complicated thing. Sometimes property lines extending from the land into the water are considered, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes the extension of property lines overlaps with neighboring properties, like the subject area we're talking about, the water directly in front of the Racket Center, is also directly in front of Rotary Beach. So I think in many people's mind, the water zone should have some relation to the adjoining waterfront property. And it seems to me that would be a good supposition to take to a public hearing. We have to presuppose something. And so I think option 2 in the original staff report is a good starting point. Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor Barkwell.
Once again, I find myself following in the footsteps of Councillor Holmes on this matter. I was envisioning option 2 when we discussed option 3. There's 3 or 4 different maps in the report, and I think that is the best starting point for discussion. And at the end of this discussion and voting on this resolution, I would like to have the opportunity to put forward yet another resolution related to the water zoning. So let's not move on too quickly after this, please.
Okay, anyone else? I'll call the question. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Let's just clarify that. We're re-voting on our vote. So if you wish to continue with the reconsideration and not vote in favor of this, then you are not in favor. So don't vote in favor. Okay, is everybody clear with that? Sorry, I didn't say it very well, but so if you want to reconsider this and look at something different, then you do not vote in favor, you are opposed to this. Okay? So, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, so that is unanimously defeating that previous motion. Okay, so Councillor Holmes, would you like to carry forward?
Yes, I would like to put on the floor a motion that council directs staff to prepare a draft zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the water area immediately adjacent to 133607 Lakeshore Drive, brackets Lakeshore Racket Center, from WZ3 to WZ2. Just, is that the correct address? Is there supposed to be 2 3s in there? Or just 1? Sort that out. Seems like, I know we have massive addresses in this town, but.
That address is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carlson, you are seconding? Okay. So that's on the floor, and now for discussion. Is there any discussion on this motion? Councillor Barkwell.
The WZ2 zoning doesn't permit a dock of any kind, I presume, correct? And I could envision that someday, sometime in the future, the Rackets Club might want a dock in their area. So perhaps it'll come out in the discussion we have in the public hearing and such. But I presume the answer would be that we would then have to do some kind of variance. Would a variance be possible if the Rackets Club if this was carried through and it was rezoned to WZ2, that a variance would permit a dock, or would we have to do a rezoning or what?
Yeah, under the Local Government Act, sorry, through the chair to Councillor Barkwell, under the Local Government Act, you can't vary use. So the WZ2 zone does not permit a dock usage within this specific area, so it would require rezoning to allow for a dock.
Councillor Holmes?
Well, I suppose we'll hear in the public hearing what the Rackets Club might or might not want. I think right now it's more of, starting point of what's best for the public and for the community. And also, could this area be included when we go to do the waterfront master plan? Would this area be included in that?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Holmes, thank you. That's a good question. It is something that myself and Lori Mullen, Director of Community Services, have already had some preliminary engagement on about that idea, because she is going to an RFP process fairly soon. It's not going to be included in terms of the scope of contemplating a marina for our consultant as part of that project. However, things that were identified in the Parks and Trails master plan, or such as the swim lane from Rotary Beach to Peach Orchard Beach, would be considered as part of that waterfront master plan, and could have implications on a potential design for the marina in the future. So I would say that it'd be related to the waterfront concept plan. It definitely, if both the marina was being proposed as well as us going through that planning process at the same time, we would engage with each other to ensure that whatever we are planning for makes sense for both parties. That helps.
Kendra?
Sorry, Council, you were actually correct, Councillor Holmes. It is just 1-3 in the address, so I've amended it just to be correct.
Thank you. I appreciate Councillor Holmes' comment just now that, at the public hearing, or perhaps in the future, we'll hear more from the Rackets Club. I think it's important to recognize that this isn't about the Rackets Club per se. This is about, this is about the public at large. I do have a, I'm going to express a little bit of concern over what I just heard, though, and that is the not that Councillor Holmes has asked about it being is part of the waterfront development plan, because I think that's a good idea, but the marina versus no marina kind of response or question that we just heard in the response. I'm a little concerned about that, because if we're talking about not changing the zoning so that Oasis is not able to have what they had envisioned for a marina there, and at the same time we're talking about the potential for the Lakeshore Rackets Club, for example, wanting to have a marina there in the future, I find that a little bit problematic in this particular discussion. I just wanted to express my concern there. For me, though, and I sit, and I know that some members of the RDOS attended the last Okanagan Lake Responsibility Initiative, which is an Okanagan Nation Alliance-led initiative with a number of conservation groups and Okanagan Basin Water Board in the Okanagan. I feel that I have a responsibility to not agree with even the WZ3 zoning and the WZ2 zoning, which still will allow a dock in the WZ3 area under option 2, simply because that waterfront, I guess, that water is, the Crown decides if they're going to build a dock there or not. And the Crown has active participation in this Okanagan Lake Responsibility Initiative. And I feel very uncomfortable in supporting a marina there after participating in this initiative for the last couple of years. I think that it's an example of talking the talk of reconciliation and not walking the walk. So that's all I wanted to say about that. Any other discussion? Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think you misunderstood my hypothetical musing there. I wasn't suggesting in the least that entertaining a marina at the Rackets Club area or anything. I just thought that someday they might want to put in a 15-foot dock or something so people could pull up in the boat and come and go or whatever. Purely, something that might be allowed under the WZ1 zoning. But I don't want to complicate things by suggesting that now, like I've already done. It will, as Councillor Holmes said, come up during the discussion, and there's ways to deal with that if that ever became something they wanted. But I'm fully with you concerning other aspects, the environmental aspects and such.
Okay, Councillor, I'll go to Councillor Carlson and then Councillor Holmes again.
I just wanted to state that I support the motion and the opportunity to potentially zone that area to WZ2. I think that as you walk down there, there's some areas right by the resort, it's sort of like a little sanctuary through there, and there's been a lot of restoration work and really good work done. And I think that as we look at our foreshore and we look at the value environmentally through the natural assets, I think there's some more conversation to be had. And hopefully with this public process, we can have that conversation with our community and determine whether marinas or whether natural foreshore areas, perhaps riparian areas, are better fit for that region. So I'm grateful that this came back, and I hope that the conversation going forward with the public and with the proponent are nice, congenial, and very worth having.
Councillor Holmes.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with Councillor Carlson and yourself, Madam Mayor. That's why I suggested WZ2. And I just also like to point out that, when you're drawing straight lines from the land, it's not only in front of the Racket Center, it's also in front of Rotary Beach because they overlap, the way the contours of the land are. So we're talking in front of Rotary Beach as well. So thanks.
Thank you. I just wanted to add one other thing. I had a couple of notes here and I forgot to mention this, but Councillor Carlson reminded me, and that was something that Councillor Barkwill pointed out. And I reviewed the March 2019 council meeting when this first came forward, the development permit application and the rezoning that we did at that time. And I remember it showed that I had asked the question, well, is there a marina as part of this? And the response that is showing on the video is that, well, no. And contrary to that, they are talking about restoring some of the natural habitat that's down there and preserving that area. So that makes me even, I guess, further committed to ensuring that there isn't a marina down there, even in that smaller capacity. So that's why I know it's rambling a little bit, but that's why I'm looking at not supporting the option 2, but looking perhaps at Councillor Barkwill's initial resolution to rezone it to WZ1 and then bringing it forward for public hearing. Thanks. Oh, and another thing too, I would like to have some discussion or some feedback from the Penticton Indian Band. I know that a referral has been sent to them, and I certainly don't want to speak on behalf of the Penticton Indian Band or the Okanagan Nation Alliance. I would like to hear from them directly on what their thoughts are, so that I'm not presuming anything on their behalf. Thanks. Okay. Any further discussion? I'll call the question, and this is rezoning from WZ3 to WZ2 in the area. I'm not even sure how to say this. This is option 2 anyways. You probably have it in front of you, Councillor Holmes, do you?
That council directs staff to prepare a draft zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the water area immediately adjacent to 13607 Lakeshore Drive. That's in front of Lakeshore Racket Center from WZ3 to WZ2.
Thank you. So that's what we're voting on. All in favor? And any opposed? And I'm opposed for the reasons that I stated earlier. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead.
Could I just comment? I just want to ask, are you clear of the difference between WZ1 and WZ2? Because my understanding WZ2 is the one that affords the most protection.
WZ, yes, I understand that. But the reason I am not in favor of this is that it's WZ2 only in that one area. It's not WZ2 in the whole area. That's why.
Thank you. Yep.
Madam Mayor?
Councillor Barkwill, thank you.
Thank you. When we were reviewing these water zones, I was surprised. I think I mentioned this last meeting, that there is no regulations or such that apply to the WZ3 zone. And it's quite astounding to me that we do not have any regulations concerning the WZ3 zone, which still exists. We haven't in many areas of our waterfront. And I would like to put forward a motion that staff develop and present to council some proposed regulations for the WZ3 commercial use water zone. And I'm speaking of the other zones all have regulations concerning the access to the public along the foreshore, the size of the docks, the setbacks, items like that. And so these would be similar to the regulations that exist for the other zones, but specific for and appropriate for a WZ3 zone.
Okay, so that is a motion. Okay, a seconder, Councillor Van Elfen. And yeah, just a moment. I appreciate you bringing this forward, Councillor Barkwell. I would appreciate, though, having a heads up on this kind of thing. Just, you know, out of courtesy, if nothing else. But I appreciate you bringing this forward. Councillor Van Elfen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So then basically we would be asking staff to look at what other communities are doing up and down the valley to see if they have any regulations under WZ3 zoning that would help inform us for the future is a question through our planning department, I guess.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Van Alphen. Basically, this would open up all of the previously regulations that were put in place by council at the time, about 2015, for all of our water use zones. The intensive water use zone, I shall say, it's a fairly select area within the district of Summerland, but primarily in front of parcels that are owned by the district of Summerland. But we would probably review other communities, see what they've done for intensive water use areas, bring forward a recommendation based on what other communities have in place. Not every municipality has zoning over top of the water, so we'd probably look at some of our comparables along Okanagan Lake, West Kelowna, and Kelowna. More likely, I would imagine, because they have perhaps more intensive water use examples that we could follow. And yeah, we'd treat it as a staff project to bring forward to council.
Question for our CAO. This also is not on our strategic priorities, and I think all of council knows how inundated our development services department is. There's all kinds of things going on with development services. And this is something that would have, this is another thing added to the plate. So as I have asked before, and development services has obligingly moved something back, I'm wondering if this is another capacity. I guess the question is, how much more can we pile on their plate? That I'm concerned about that, especially as we're moving into budget season and our final year of this term, all of those things.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I am equally concerned just in terms of the pressures and priorities that are currently on our plate. I see a value to the exercise. My question to council would be timing. So I didn't hear Councillor Barkwell indicate a specific timing, but if timing is at some point in the future where we're talking about future priority juggling, then I think it's something that we can work in. If there's a desire for something in the very short term, then I think we'd have to force a conversation about priorities and what else could be put down. But given the process is to test with the public on this zoning change and have the public hearing and et cetera, perhaps there is some time for that decision and that process to take place before we ultimately work on this project, given there's, I don't think, any other in the immediate term marina type proposals that are on the books, right? I'm getting a nod from our development services director. So maybe there's some time on this, and I just would look to council to give us some clarity as to what the timing importance of the be.
Councillor Barkwell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since we are aware of a marina proposal in front of the Oasis project, and I think that this is what you might call an emerging priority. We haven't interfered or dealt with or even discussing the water zone in front of the Oasis property, which still has WZ3 zone and a pending marina proposal. And I would think that regulations for such a proposal would be something that we'd want to have before the proposal comes to us, not after the fact. So I would like to see it addressed fairly quickly. I'm not sure what the timelines could be, but, you know, say before March or something.
So maybe you should not have, maybe you should, well, anyways, there was a way of accomplishing that a few minutes ago. CAO, before I go back to you, no, you go ahead, please. I had another thought.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we do see efficacy in what's being proposed, give clarity if that's what council is looking for. And with that understanding of the timing, if I could just have the opportunity to take it back and have a conversation with our Director of Development Services, and perhaps would be in a position to advise council on some shifting of priorities for us to focus on this important work.
I just have a question. The motion that was just passed, that will be brought forward for first and second reading at the first meeting in November.
Sorry, that might not be doable. It really depends on council's wishes for how we want to treat the request. Do we want to go through an advisory planning commission meeting before we come back for first and second reading? Right. If you know, we've given us clear direction tonight that you want to consider a specific rezoning. If you want us to come straight back to council, we can do so.
Yeah, we went through them before, didn't we? And that's correct. And I would like, as I said before, I would like to hear from the Penticton Indian Band as well on this. Okay. So the public hearing maybe as late as December then. I'm just trying to get a sense of how much time we have, because we do talk about strategic priorities again as part of our budget process in January. Anyways, I'm just trying to sort out timelines. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. In respect to the motion we just passed, Councillor Barkwell's original motion did go to the APC, and they had a really good discussion about it, and they agreed on the principle of going to a public hearing, of triggering a public hearing. So I don't really understand. I don't really see the point of going back to them now before a public hearing, because they would just say the same thing, right? It's still triggering a public hearing, and which was the objective. So I don't really see the point of going back to the APC before a public hearing.
Yeah, thanks for that. Councillor Holmes, if we can get, if we can just take kind of that informal direction, I don't think we don't have to go to advisory planning commission, because I do agree that they have had a chance to review it and provided some comments back to us already. Thank you.
Okay. So, Councillor Barkwell, you're viewing this as an emergent issue or priority issue. So, Graham, you have asked for an opportunity this week, or maybe at senior management, to speak to development services. So how do we manage this at this point? Do we just, we can't really vote on it?
If I may.
Can we just defer it? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'm understanding from council that there's an interest in seeing these regulations be a priority. So we'll simply, our intent will be to adjust the priorities, and what we need to come back with is what priorities need to be deferred in order to make this focus.
Okay, I'll go back to you, Councillor Barkwell, and then to Councillor Carlson. Anyone else? Councillor Holmes.
First off, I think the staff was looking for some direction, sort of an informal nod about whether we go to the APC on this current, on the motion we just passed. And I guess I support what Councillor Holmes said. And it's already, you know, basically the similar issues, identical issues have been brought to the APC. So we don't need to do that step for this resolution. And I'm not really sure how urgent it is. I just didn't want to see it delayed for a year. So I think I'm happy to pass the motion and just leave it open, the question open as to how quickly it's dealt with. Let staff sort of determine what the priority is, like how, you know, just bearing in mind that there are things happening, and let them figure it out. Yeah.
Back to you, CAO Stat.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through also to Councillor Barkwell, thank you for affording us the time to take a look at that. And I suggest maybe the best place to continue the discussion on the priorities pieces in our next quarterly update from staff on priorities, and that'll be on the 25th of October as currently slated. So that'll give me the chance to talk to Mr. Dolovit and be able in the course and through that presentation to provide some perspective to council on shifting priorities in that regard. So thank you.
Okay, now I have Councillor Carlson.
My thought was that perhaps if it's not imminent or as urgent, perhaps it can be amended with a friendly amendment, just added as a strategic planning, something that we discussed during strategic planning, but perhaps that's not soon enough.
Are you looking to me for a comment on that?
Well, if it was
Yeah.
something that
I think I said, when I said, let's leave it to staff to figure out, and then they'll let us know. And then if we're unhappy with that, then we can talk about it. But I expect that we'll probably be happy with whatever plan that they make.
And if there is a change to priorities, then that certainly will be part of the discussion. Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I'm happy with that approach. Let's leave it indefinite. Let's get it on the list. And right now it can sit on the bottom of the list, but after the quarterly update, we might decide to, you know, move it up, and we'll hear from staff. And so I'm good with that approach. Thanks.
And Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question was already answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Kendra, could you read the motion that is on the floor, please?
That council directs staff to draft a zoning amendment for regulations to the WZ3 zone.
Thank you. I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now on to 9.2, development variance permit for 17523 Sanborn Street, and this is for Alex.
Good evening, Council. So the district has received an application for variance to allow an overheight retaining wall at 17523 Sanborn Street. The subject property is a vacant residential lot within the Hunters Hill Phase 1 housing development in Summerland. The applicant is proposing to construct a single-family home and associated patio and swimming pool on the property. In the OCP, the future land use designation of the subject property is rural residential, and it is zoned CR1 country residential. These land uses are consistent with neighboring properties. The retaining wall is proposed in order to increase the amount of usable space in the sloped rear yard of the property. The existing slope provides an option for a full basement walkout. However, the applicants would prefer to construct a pool and deck off the main floor of their home. This option requires the construction of an overheight retaining wall at the rear of the home. Section 5.5.4 of the zoning bylaw limits the maximum height of any retaining wall to 2 meters. The intent behind this 2-meter retaining wall regulation is to prevent the construction of imposing monolithic walls that would fundamentally alter the character of a neighborhood and have visual impacts on neighboring parcels. The plan identifies the proposed retaining wall to be 4 meters at its highest point. The proposed retaining wall at 17523 Sanborn Street is to be sited in the rear yard of the property. Due to the panhandle orientation of the lot, the wall will not be highly visible from adjacent properties or from Sanborn Street. The proposed wall will also be partially screened from the industrial properties below and the highway due to existing vegetation. A structural design sealed by a professional engineer will be required to address any geotechnical, structural, and water concerns at the time of building permit. The proposed retaining wall height variance will allow the property owners to expand the usable area on the sloped property to construct a swimming pool. The variance is being recommended for approval due to its limited impact on adjacent landowners and overall neighborhood character. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Corporate Officer, did we get any correspondence, or do you know of any, Alex, that has come in on this?
So through the chair, I did not personally receive any correspondence relating to this variance.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Council, do you have any questions of staff? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Besides natural vegetation, is there going to be any other aesthetics that are done to a 12-foot wall?
So through the chair, I was going to go back to the presentation, but there's no currently proposed other aesthetics. It's a stamped concrete wall, which is definitely more desirable than like your lock block walls that we've sometimes seen around town. So it is appear to be a higher quality wall, but at that point, that's all the information that I have about vegetation surrounding the wall.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I will ask someone to bring forward the motion, please. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That council authorizes issuance of development variance permit DVP 21-024 for a property located at 17523 Sanborn Street, legally described as Lot 19, District Lot 1178, a Soyuz Division Yale District Plan EPP 102577, and that the variance to the following sections of zoning bylaw 2000-450 be granted. Maximum retaining wall height, section 5.5.4, to vary the maximum height of the retaining wall from 2 meters permitted to 4 meters proposed.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Holmes. Further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Traynor, you're not opposed. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's unanimous then. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
And now on to the new addition to our agenda, and that is 9.3 regarding the Chamber of Commerce, and I'll have Kendra lead this one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So during this afternoon's council session, the Chamber of Commerce requested $10,000 for just the 2021 Light Up Summerland event. And I apologize if maybe I just missed it, but it was unclear on whether council wanted to allocate that $10,000 or wanted to allocate $10,000 to that event. So I'm asking for council consideration. I have drafted a motion if that's the way council wishes to go.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I was going to ask this afternoon, I forgot, so I'll ask it now. Where would that $10,000 come from in our budget?
Through the mayor, Councillor Holmes, it would come from our general fund at this point in time. So basically, any slippage from the operational components of our general fund, because there's no specific line item for this otherwise.
Okay. Councillor Carlson?
I would move the motion. Perhaps you could read it for us. Thank you.
So it's three parts. So that council allocate $10,000 to the Summerland Chamber of Commerce's 2021 Light Up event, and that the $10,000 be allocated from the general fund, and that council approve the Summerland Chamber and that council direct staff to work with the Chamber of Commerce on implementation of the revised 2021 Light Up Summerland event.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Patton. I have a question on that. In the portion about staff working with the chamber, does that include the insurance piece? Okay, thank you. And I just want to state that I'm in favor of this, but I really want to make sure that the $10,000 is capped at $10,000. That's what they've asked for in years past. As recent as a week before Light Up, there's been requests for more funds, and I really don't want to see that this year. So that's all I have to say about that, but I am in favor of the motion. Anyone else? All in favor? And none opposed, thank you. Okay, a couple of bylaws for adoption. The first is Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 2021-008 and Zoning Bylaw Amendment number 2021-009, and this is for 8108 Purves Road. And this is for adoption. Councillor Carlson, you're bringing that forward, and Councillor Holmes seconding. Any discussion on this? All in favor? Thank you, that's unanimous. And the second one is for adoption is zoning amendment bylaw number 2021-031, and that's at 10518 Jubilee Road West, so the other property that was before us last time. Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Great, thank you. Item 12, is there a notice of motion? Thank you, so no surprises there. On to information items, 13.1 correspondence. There is Youth Parliament of BC Alumni Society and a letter that regarding the Primary Care Network Steering Committee. Okay, could I have someone bring, Councillor Holmes.
Yes, regarding the primary care committee, I sent out when this first came to us, I asked if we could get clarification of whether they're asking for somebody from Penticton and Summerland, or somebody representing both communities, one person representing both, and I just wonder if we've had that clarification.
Do you want to go ahead with that, Kendra? Thank you.
So it would be one individual from either community to represent both communities.
Councillor Holmes.
I have serious issues with that. I think that we need to respond to them saying that, well, I can't think of what to say right now, but not in a public meeting, but I think we need to respond to that. I think it's, I think Summerland needs its own representative. Thanks.
Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I certainly concur with Councillor Holmes, and I have a question. This primary care network, is it a network established by the Interior Health, or what is its articles of incorporation, so to speak, say who they are?
Do you want to answer that, Graham, or?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, I don't have that at my fingertips, the Articles of Incorporation.
I don't mean that literally. I meant, like, who are they? Do they have a budget for activities, or are they just sort of a steering committee from some other organization, or, like, what? I'm not really familiar with the primary care network, their raison d'etre. I'd like to know more.
It's not an entity. It's a healthcare strategy. But Councillor Carlson and Councillor Holmes have their hands raised as well.
I'm wondering if I might nominate someone. Is that part of this process? Like, is that something we can do since we're here?
I would prefer that you not do that quite yet, because I have something else to add to the conversation, and Councillor Holmes had his hand raised as well, but I certainly will come back to you.
No, I didn't really have my hand raised, but I mean, just in response to Councillor Barkwell, I can give you your load on what that is, but not right now.
The thing that I wanted to say is I had a call from the Division of Family Practice, and they had already heard from the City of Penticton. City of Penticton also does not want to have a single person appointed. And I had a good conversation about why this is the way it is. And it was made quite clear to me that after 2 years of establishing how this would work, the steering committee, there is not any desire at all to revisit how they have set it up. So currently it's set up with 4 and 4, so 4 for Interior Health and 4 for Division of Family Practice, because they're the ones that, well, as it was put to me, have the most skin in the game. There are 2 First Nations representatives and 1, what they're referring to as rural communities representative, and then 1 between Penticton and Summerland. So all the other municipalities are part of the rural representative. And it was made, like I said, it was made pretty clear that it's taken them a long time to come up with this, and they're not going to move from their position on this particular piece. But they did say, the person I've spoken to did say 2 things, and that is, it doesn't have to be an appointment from an elected official. It can be somebody that the council appoints that is a community member that can ably represent the community. So whether, they have a personal, probably not professional, but a real personal engagement with the healthcare system in our community or lack thereof. So that's one thing that they said. And the other thing was that they have been considering re-engaging or restarting, I guess, the advisory committee. And that was a committee that Mayor Vasilaki and myself sat on as well. And that might be a possibility to have that so that at least Summerland would have a voice in that capacity. And the advisory committee would be advising to the steering committee. So we'd have a voice there. And we could also have a voice in the broader community as well. So I just wanted to share that before you brought forward your suggestion. And I'll just go back to Councillor Holmes for a moment.
So having heard that, then maybe the best approach would be to sit down with Penticton and find somebody who understands both communities, and a third person, Dan Ashton or something. It's a joke. So there must be somebody who knows both communities. That would be a good candidate, and my suggestion.
Councillor Carlson.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. And maybe I missed it. Can it be a retired physician? Or does it have, was there anything particular about that or who it is?
No, she just said it was the executive director that called me. And she just said that it can be a community member that you think can ably represent the community on health matters, specifically primary care network.
Great. I think that we should see if there might be an opportunity to speak with Penticton, whether that's through staff or through yourself and Mayor Vasilaki. But there's a lot of folks who live in Summerland that work in Penticton. I think probably more than live in Penticton and work in Summerland, and maybe just something that we consider because there's very good synergy there. So I would think that would work well as opposed to it being a elected official of some kind.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a possibility, and I think that Councillor Holmes' suggestion is a good one too. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've actually reached out and engaged Donnie Van Dyke, the CIO of Penticton, on this issue. And we have a conversation going on this, and so I'd be happy to continue that and see if we can collaborate around what a joint representative might be for both communities.
Okay, that's good. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I guess the other thing established is what sort of person would we want to represent the community? I mean, there are plenty of doctors who live in Summerland and who work in Penticton, but do we want a doctor? I mean,
no, we don't. Yeah. We don't want a doctor.
Exactly. Yeah,
that was the gist of what she was saying.
Yeah, right.
They've got representation already.
Yeah, that was my point. Yeah, so might be somebody, a lay person.
Okay, that's good. And my apologies, there actually was a third piece of correspondence that was just added earlier today, I believe, and that is from the Summerland Dog Owners Association. So is there anything else that Councillor would like to bring forward? All right, I'll ask for to receive correspondence for information. Then Councillor Van Alphen and Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Great. And then we're moving right on to councillor reports. Councillor Traynor, I'll start with you.
I don't have too much to report. I did attend the RDOS meeting last Thursday, and I will be submitting my report from that meeting tomorrow. And I did have a baby 3 weeks ago, so I guess that's something to report. I had a little girl, and I'm just adjusting to having 3 young children now, but it's going really well. So that's all I have to report tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Very nice report. Councillor Van Elfen.
Nothing to report tonight, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Patton.
I have nothing to report tonight, Madam Mayor.
All right. Councillor Carlson.
Also nothing to report.
And back across the other side, Councillor Barkwell.
I don't know how you follow a report like Councillor Trainer's, but I did attend the museum's monthly meeting. They're reviewing their strategic plan and progress to date. They seem to be right on top of things. Fall Fair was hugely successful for them. They signed up 47 new people. They sold all their inventory of bags and nearly sold out all their mugs. That's a good fundraiser for them. I think it was around $1,000 or something. And they now have 122 members. And perhaps of real interest is, I don't know what's in it, but the museum has a problem with a lot of material that was received, and then, you know, its value to the Summerland Museum, which concentrates mostly or entirely on Summerland things, had to be assessed afterwards. And sometimes there's duplications of items. Sometimes there's things that are maybe interesting but not related to Summerland or such. And so anyhow, they have quite a number of items that they've gone through the de-accessioning process. It's quite a formal process that museums follow. And so now they've all the other options have been thoroughly explored and investigated and such. They're going to auction with a bunch of, I think it's 100, about 100 items or something. And so look for that online auction, and I'll try and get more information about that. We can all put it on our Facebook pages and stuff. And the more interest that there is for the auction of the museum items, probably the better the price they'll get, which is all good.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. And Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. I did submit an RDOS report from the end of September meeting. So it's not in the correspondence, so maybe it can be in the next correspondence. I just want to make a comment from the Okanagan Basin Water Board. Does everyone get the monthly board reports? Yeah, we all get it. So I don't know. You guys don't get it? Oh, okay. Do you want it? I can make sure I get everybody signed up for it because they're really informative. So in the last board meeting, there was the Source Water Protection Toolkit was introduced. It was developed in consultation with water utilities and local governments from throughout the Okanagan. Devin Vandermeulen represented us on the advisory committee. And the purpose of the toolkit was to help with source protection planning. So if you go to the website sourcewaterprotectiontoolkit.ca, there's a roadmap. The whole toolkit's there, tools, lots of case studies. And if we're interested, somebody from the OBWB can present to us the toolkit to us to council if we're interested in hearing more about it. You can let me know if you're interested or not, and I can set it up.
Okay. Anybody that wishes to comment? Oh, sorry, Councillor Van Elfen.
Sorry, Matt.
Did I miss you?
No, you did
Oh,
not.
okay, sorry.
I said I didn't have anything to report, but something has come to mind, and I'm not going to do it justice, but I'm going to say it anyways. And I don't have the names, that's why I'm embarrassed. 3 very talented grade 12 students at Summerland Secondary School have did a mural on the back of the school by the tennis courts. If you get an opportunity, it is absolutely stunning. And my hat's off to these 3 young ladies from Summerland Secondary School. It's absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. One of those women is Emilia Campardo. I don't know the other 2 women. They are inviting the public, and I thank you for bringing this up, Councillor Van Elfen. They are inviting the public to show their support for reconciliation by putting their handprint in paint on like the students from the high school have. And also I know that I get the newsletters from the museum because I am a member, and they have started a reconciliation pledge wall at the museum too. So, things are starting to sink in, I think. Okay, so that's good. And now I'll ask, sorry, Kendra, again, if there is anyone. No. Okay. So I'll ask for adjournment. Councillor Van Elfen and Holmes, all in favor? Great.